his first summit with President Putin. The main focus of their meeting set for Thursday will be a diplomatic solution to denuclearization.
Fast-track bills face an uphill battle as political wrangling continues at South Korea's National Assembly.
South Korea announces a multi-billion-dollar stimulus package aimed at reducing air pollution, improving safety, and especially helping support the country's exports.
South Korea's chronic low birth rate shows no sign of letting up, dropping to another record monthly low in February. NEWSCENTER begins now. Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Noaram.
And I'm Hyundai. Thank you for joining us. We begin with the latest developments on the closely watched summit between leaders of North Korea and Russia. Kim Jonguns is now in Russia's Far Eastern Federal University in Vladivostok, his first stop after arriving in the city just about 2 hours ago.
Yes, and as we wait for the summit, which will take place tomorrow at the university, let's get the latest details from our Ji-won, who's standing by for us tonight. Ji-won, what's the latest?
Guys, like you said, Kim Jong-un arrived in the Far Eastern city a little before 6 p.m. local time. That's about 2 hours ago. Now, at Vladivostok railway station, Kim was greeted by guard of honor, and he is now expected to have arrived at his hotel, believed to be at the Far Eastern Federal University located on Ruski Island off the coast of Vladivostok. The university is also where the leaders are having their summit tomorrow, discussing diplomatic solutions for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, as announced by the Kremlin yesterday. The expectation is that the leaders will also discuss their bilateral issues, including economic ones, and possibly easing the UN sanctions on the North. Their meeting will start with a one-on-one sit-down, followed by an expanded talk between the respective delegations, which will not result in the leaders signing any agreements or making a joint statement. Now, as for tonight, local reports say Russia's Deputy Prime Minister and Presidential Envoy to the Far Eastern Federal District, Yuri Trutnev, is expected to host a welcome banquet for Kim. The reports say President Putin will arrive in Vladivostok tomorrow.
Right, now, Ji-won, we heard Kim made a quick stopover on his way to Vladivostok earlier in the day. Where did he go and with who did he go there?
Sure, Kim left for Russia this morning, as reported by the North Korean Central News Agency. Soon after we got that news, we heard Kim had arrived at the border station of Kasan. A short ceremony was held to welcome him, and to the Russian officials there, Kim reportedly said that this won't be his last trip to the country and that he believes his meeting with President Putin will be a good one that helps them stabilize and manage regional affairs. And according to TASS news agency, Kim then looked around the museum Kim Il-sung's house, which was built near the station in 1986 to honor Kim Jong-un's late grandfather Kim Il-sung's visit to the Soviet Union. Now, accompanying Kim included Pyongyang's top diplomat Lee Yong-ho and Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee. But one thing to note is that the list of delegates does not include either Kim Yong-chol, who is vice chairman of the ruling Workers' Party Central Committee, and or Kim Jong-un's wife Lee Sol-ju. It's the first time Kim Yong-chol has not accompanied his leader on a visit to another country, so I think that's an interesting point. Now, meanwhile, Kim's younger sister, Kim Yo Jong, is believed to have arrived in Russia a day before to prepare. Back to you guys.
Our easy one for us tonight. Thank you, Ji-won. Keep us posted. It's no secret that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un would attempt to win Russia's political and economic support. But the big question is, how much support is Russia willing to provide its old ally? Our Yo Jong heard from experts for some clues, and they say Russia is unlikely to offer anything dramatic.
International experts analyze that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, through his summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin, wants to relieve the regime's political isolation and economic difficulties while pressing the U.S. Russia, on the other hand, wants to show that it's still an influential player in the region. But Moscow won't cause a dramatic turnaround, and there's a limit to what Russia can offer to Pyongyang, a former U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor says.
I would be surprised if Russia dramatically broke with the UN sanctions, for example, or really took a very significant new turn in its direction. I think it's simply a reminder to everyone that Russia is still a player in East Asia.
Pundits say the upcoming Pyongyang-Moscow summit is one of many tactics North Korea can use to gain the upper hand when it comes to nuclear negotiations. And so is the North's recent criticism on high-ranking U.S. officials like Pompeo and Bolton. Pyongyang wants to deal directly with U.S. President Trump.
You still try to deal with Trump because the rest of the administration, Bolton, Pompeo, everybody else, is just going to be even worse. So I think he's still more willing than people like Bolton to, if there is a decent deal to be had.
South Korea has stated that the two sides should come up with a, quote, good enough deal instead of the so-called big deals or small deals. A former U.S. ambassador to South Korea says this good enough deal would have to involve some real actions that lessen threats on the peninsula.
To actually begin to dismantle and destroy some of the weapons that threaten South Korea, threaten the United States, as the kind of litmus test of seriousness of Kim Jong-un. Real steps in that direction, for me, would be enough to offer some limited reduction in the sanctions.
And moving forward, analysts agree that having another inter-Korean summit wouldn't help much in providing a momentum to nuclear negotiations. The prospect is also grim for a third summit between Kim and Trump, as neither Pyongyang nor Washington has moved an inch from their respective stances. Yo Jong, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's first stop after arriving in Vladivostok was the Far Eastern Federal University. The university is expected to host Kim-Putin summit tomorrow and accommodate Kim's stay as well. Our Kim Jonguns now reports on the significance of the particular venue holds.
Preparations for the summit between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin are in full swing in Vladivostok. Far Eastern Federal University, seen as the most likely venue for the summit, has been a hive of activity as well. Local media reports that a building on campus has been closed to install a stage. Also, North Korea's Chief Secretary Kim Chang-sun and other North Korean officials have been spotted touring various facilities at the campus. Experts say it's almost certain the summit will be held at the university, considering the signs of preparations and Putin's personal affection for the university since it was built in 2012 upon his personal orders. Another reason pointing to Far Eastern Federal University being the venue is that North Korea's Kim-taek University of Technology and FEFU reached an agreement last November for active exchanges and joint research. Kim Chang-sun was also spotted touring other places in the region, such as headquarters of Russian Pacific's fleet and the Primorsky Aquarium. The aquarium's website posted a notice on Monday that it would be closed on Friday, a sign Kim and Putin could drop by together. Kim Jonguns, Arirang News.
Here in Seoul, President Moon Jae-in will be meeting with Secretary of the Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, on Thursday, who is also known as Putin's right-hand man. South Korea's presidential office says National Security Advisor Chung Eui-yong will also be sitting down with Patrushev. Given the meeting falls on the same day as the summit between the leaders of North Korea and Russia in Vladivostok, it is likely there will be an exchange of views on the talks. Switching gears now to inter-Korean affairs. April 27th marks exactly 1 year since the historic summit between South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un was held for the first time. Since the Panmunjom Declaration, inter-Korean military tensions have been reduced dramatically. Our Kim Ji-yeon today takes a look at the progress and the setbacks seen on the two Koreas' military front over the past 12 months.
A lot has changed since the leaders of the two Koreas have met on April 27, 2018 to engage in peace talks which laid the foundation for their comprehensive military agreement, which was signed at the second summit by the two countries on September 19th. It included the trial removal of nearly a dozen frontline guard posts on both sides of the demilitarized zone, as well as the removal of weaponry and troops there, following trilateral military talks held with the United Nations Command in October last year. Since the InterKorean military agreement, the two Koreas have also disarmed the joint security area in Panmunjom and set up ground, air, and maritime buffer zones along the inter-Korean border. A no-fly zone has been imposed covering 10 to 40 kilometers from the military demarcation line, and Seoul's defense ministry has been trying to negotiate with the north about expanding the zone to cover the Hangang River estuary. The two Koreas have also carried out a joint survey of the estuary's waterway with the aim of providing free passage of civilian vessels by sharing the area. They have also conducted demining operations at Arrowhead Ridge inside the DMZ, site to one of the fiercest battles during the Korean War for the excavation of troop remains. Despite this, the two Koreas still have a long way to go to fully implement the agreement amid deepening concerns over Pyongyang's increasingly lukewarm attitude amid a lack of progress in denuclearization talks with the U.S. Further discussions include North Korea's acknowledgement of the Northern Limit Line, the disputed maritime demarcation line in the West Sea, where the Koreas have agreed to establish a shared fishing ground. They also need to hold more talks on the joint excavation of war remains, currently being carried out solely by the South after the North failed to respond. Kim Jonguns, Arirang News.
Turning to local politics now, and the fast-track legislation has triggered quite a bit of drama at South Korea's National Assembly, with the ruling party and minor opposition parties on track to designating the reform bills as fast-track tomorrow is expected to put Parliament into a complete standstill. Kim Min-ji reports.
The political deadlock over the fast-track legislation has brought the National Assembly to a halt. On Thursday, the Special Committee for Political and Judiciary Reform will convene to designate key bills as fast-track, one on electoral reform and the other to create a body to investigate high-ranking public officials. The main opposition Liberty Korea party, which had been strongly against the move, launched an all-night sit-in to resist and warned of fierce action should the fast-track process go ahead.
It's a shame that we're in this situation. Only the Liberty Korea party stands in the way of this government's despotism. If we can't stop it, the South Korean government will fall apart.
On top of that, there's been an internal feud within the minor opposition Padamita party. Their floor leader is seeking to use his authority to replace a lawmaker on the Committee for Judiciary Reform to someone in favor of fast-track to keep the plans from falling through. 3/5 of 18 rival lawmakers on each panel needs to vote in favor of the move. The deal never had full support from Padamita party lawmakers in the first place, and it's raised concerns of mass defections. The election law has always been revised through bipartisan agreement until now. The Liberty Korea party earlier in the day lodged a complaint with the National Assembly Speaker to prevent the fast-track move, saying it goes against parliamentary democracy. To this, the Speaker said it's a matter that parties need to solve through talks and that they can't just barge in.
Have you ever seen a parliament like this anywhere in the world? This is the reality of South Korean politics. This is really heartbreaking. A chamber that treats the speaker like this is a war zone.
The ruling Democratic Party called on the Conservatives to end their boycott and get back to work.
I ask the party to stop this, come back to Parliament, pass the government's extra budget, and take care of our other legislation.
The situation will likely get worse on Thursday if the bills are fast-tracked. Parliament will be paralyzed for the time being, which raises doubts that the government's extra budget can be passed anytime soon. The dynamics in the National Assembly could also change if there are indeed mass defections from the Padamita party. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The government has drawn up a near $6 billion supplementary budget bill meant to boost Korea's exports and deal with fine dust pollution as well as other issues. The bill will be submitted to Parliament on Thursday. Kim Hye-sung has more.
The government has announced the details of its $5.9 billion supplementary budget mainly targeted at boosting the local economy.
The stimulus package is to help support struggling areas, ease the public's pain, and help reduce downside risks to our economy.
The planned stimulus package allocates $1.3 billion to tackle fine dust, including subsidies for replacing 400,000 old diesel-powered cars, as well as providing face masks for vulnerable social groups and construction workers. Around $612 million will be used to strengthen safety measures such as improving the response to wildfires by increasing the number of wildland firefighters from 300 to 435 people and providing more helicopters. $3.9 billion, almost two-thirds of the budget, will be used to help boost the economy by increasing export credit financing and supporting areas like the southeastern city of Pohang, which is still recovering from the 2017 earthquake.
We expect the stimulus package to help create around 73,000 new jobs.
The Finance Ministry added that the extra budget could help build recovery momentum in the second half of the year and boost domestic growth by 0.1 percentage points this year, as well as cutting 7,000 tons of fine dust. The proposed stimulus comes amid falling export growth in the country. Exports contracted for the fourth consecutive month, down 8% on year in March amid slowing global trade and chip demand. The IMF had recommended last month that the Korean government injects $7.9 billion of stimulus, or 0.5% of the country's nominal GDP, if it is to meet the government's growth target of between 2.6 and 2.7% for the year. The government will submit the supplementary budget bill to Parliament on Thursday. If passed, it will be the Moon administration's third extra budget bill, with around $3 billion coming in the form of government bond issuance. Kim Jonguns, Arirang News.
With just over a week to go before the grace period ends on the U.S. waiver on Iranian oil sanctions, South Korea's foreign ministry is planning to send officials to Washington this week for consultations with their U.S. counterparts. Lee Min-sun reports.
Shortly after the U.S. announced on Tuesday that it would end exemptions for all 8 countries that were previously granted waivers from sanctions on Iran, South Korea's foreign ministry said it will send a delegation to the U.S. The move is aimed at looking into the background of the State Department's announcement and trying to persuade the U.S. to extend the exemption period. The South Korean delegation, led by Deputy Foreign Minister for Economic Affairs Yoon Kang-hyun, is expected to ask for a waiver extension. South Korea has been emphasizing that it mainly imports condensate, an ultra-light form of crude oil, from Iran, and many of the Korean companies dealing with Iran are small and mid-sized companies. The Trump administration's decision is expected to deal a blow to South Korea, as the local petrochemical industry relies heavily on Iranian condensate imports. Meanwhile, global oil prices hit a 6-month high following the U.S. announcement. West Texas Intermediate closed at $66.30 per barrel on Tuesday, its highest price since October 29th last year. The price of Brent crude oil also climbed to close at $74.41 a barrel on Tuesday. However, prices of both classifications were slightly down as of Wednesday morning. Lee Min-sun, Arirang News.
Now let's turn to some local business news now. And Samsung Electronics says it'll invest a total of $116 billion in its logic chip business through 2030. That's nearly 6 times what the firm currently invests in total on a yearly average. A little over half of that will be allocated to R&D in logic chips, and the rest will be used for production. The announcement comes as Samsung strengthens non-memory semiconductor businesses such as Foundry to become the world leader in not only memory semiconductors but also logic chips. Also during that time, it aims to create 15,000 production and research jobs. Hyundai Motors has recorded operating profits of $718 million for the first quarter of this year, up 21% from the same period last year. The firm said on Wednesday that it had $20.8 billion of gross sales, an on-year increase of 7%. It owed its good performance to the success of its recently released Palisades SUV and Genesis G90 sedan. Although domestic sales saw a near 9% increase with 184,000 cars, sales abroad were down 5% with 837,000. The biggest drop in sales was in China, where 131,000 cars were sold, around 20% fewer than the previous year. Hyundai Motors has decided to shut down one of its factories in Beijing due to the sales slump. Now, the birth rate for February hit a record low along with the marriage rate. Our Kim Dami has more on the latest figures from Statistics Korea that was released on Wednesday.
This February marked the lowest birth rate for the month since data first started being compiled in 1981. According to Statistics Korea, a total of 25,700 babies were born, almost 2,000 less compared to a year earlier. This means that for every 1,000 people, only 6.5 babies were born in the month of February.
Women aged between 30 and 34 give birth the most, but that population is decreasing, leading to the decline in childbirths.
Other experts are pointing to a change in opinions on marriage as opposed to the decrease in population as the main reason behind the decline.
Women in South Korea have now become individuals who believe they deserve respect. In a society where patriarchal ideas remain, marriage and giving birth are seen as rather unfair.
The marriage rate for February reflects this reasoning. It also marked the lowest to ever be recorded for the month of February, with around 18,000 couples tying the knot. And predictions for the rest of the year also look bleak. According to the country's unique age system, everyone is one when they're born and turns 2 along with the new year. So South Koreans are said to prefer giving birth in earlier months to prevent their child turning 2 at the beginning of the year. Considering such trend, the birth rate is only expected to drop for the rest of the year, with the total birth rate forecast to mark less than 300,000. Acknowledging the demographic slide as inevitable, the government this month formed a task force and will introduce welfare and education policies in June to suit the country's rapidly declining population. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
A few weeks ago, Korea became the first country in the world to launch a commercial 5G mobile network. It is said that 5G has the potential to change our lives dramatically. Our Oh So-young today went to an IT exhibition in southern Seoul to see what the future might hold.
If you simply can't decide what to wear or which coat goes well with your shirt, an artificial intelligence software can put together an outfit for you. All you have to do is take a picture of a piece of clothing or even just draw something you would like.
Our algorithm classifies the pattern and your preferences to recommend items from your wardrobe or online shopping malls. We also use pattern-generating technology and natural language processing for the AI to understand human speech.
The World IT Show kicked off in southern Seoul on Wednesday, the biggest exhibition of its kind in the tech-savvy country. If you thought IT is all about computers and rows of coding, you might be wrong. Some 400 firms here are showcasing their latest smart technologies and gadgets that could soon fit into our daily routines. Everything from unlocking your car through facial recognition to virtual reality shopping and mental and physical healthcare. Such technologies based on artificial intelligence, cloud computing and the Internet of Things are expected to become faster and more responsive as 5G becomes more widespread.
Pinpointing the exact location is crucial for unmanned vehicles, allowing them to avoid collision or accidents. As for drones, AI checks the location and identifies items around it. This can be used in driverless cars and smart city infrastructure.
With data transmission speeds 20 times faster than those of LTE and ultra-low latency or lag time, 5G can enhance safety and user experience for driverless cars in particular.
When our solution recognizes the face of the driver, the seats, side mirrors, and rear mirror all shift into the optimal position. It also detects whether the driver is sleepy or unfocused and gives warning signs. And with 5G's low latency, cars will be able to communicate better with each other, and with traffic lights increasing safety.
The Science Ministry said earlier this month that it hopes to nurture these 5G-related technologies to create an $158 billion industry by 2026.
오수영 아리랑 뉴스.
South Korea is one of the world's leading countries in the field of eSports. With the eSports contents in Korea gaining more and more popularity worldwide, it is now going beyond the frame of games. For the last part of our three-part series on diversification of Hallyu or Korean Wave, our Seo Bo-bin looks into how online games are becoming part of Korea's culture.
South Korea is well known for its online gaming and is the fifth largest online game market in the world. With esports fever growing, it has got to the point where esports can be seen as part of Hallyu. From Overwatch to Battlegrounds, what might seem like just fun games to play has for younger generations become a culture and sport.
The main group of people who enjoy esports are millennials. The biggest cultural part of their daily lives are games and consuming mobile content. Esports lets them share that common culture through games, therefore it's very popular among teens.
Esports are gaining interest globally, and it has reached a point where esports can even be seen in high school varsity sports competitions in the United States. With Korean esports growing overseas, they are becoming part of a new Hallyu.
It's already been 20 years since Korea started esports, and since South Korean esports players show they are the best, people see esports contents made in Korea as the best. People show great interest in Korean esports and even buy the broadcast rights to see the games.
Moreover, with the growth of IT and broadcasting industry, the esports industry is also booming.
In order for esports to take its position as a major industry, institutional management needs to be solidified, and since esports is a convergence of IT, communications, and entertainment, if professions related to these industries work together, the esports industry is sure to grow.
Esports is one of the trendiest sports of the digital era, with the development of VR and AR, and as IT develops even more, synergies between these technologies and esports will help the industry get even stronger in the future. Seo Bo-bin, Arirang News.
U.S. Forces Korea is believed to have conducted an exercise last week involving a THAAD missile defense system originally deployed to fend off attacks from North Korea. According to a picture on the Facebook page of the 35th Air Defense Artillery Brigade, the week-long exercise started last Monday at Camp Humphreys in Pyeongtaek, Gyeonggi-do Province, and not at the missile defense base in Seongju. An official from U.S. Forces Korea said the exercise involved mounting missiles on the launcher. Dozens of South Korea's top 500 companies last year owed more in interest than what they earned. According to local industry tracker CEO Score, at 59 of the companies, total sales last year came to $148 billion, down 6% from a year earlier. The interest they owed came to $170 billion, down nearly 5.5%. 16 of those firms, including Samsung Heavy Industries and Dongbu Steel, have been classified as so-called zombie companies because their interest payments outstripped earnings for 3 consecutive years. Arirang TV has signed an MOU with a Chinese firm that promotes international cultural exchanges. The agreement reached with Hwareng Shenzhen on Wednesday is aimed at boosting cultural exchanges between South Korea and China for young people. In August, both sides are planning to hold a joint cultural festival where around 1,000 teenagers from China and 500 from South Korea will take part performing traditional music and dance. The eagerly awaited movie Avengers Endgame has smashed records on its first day of release here in Korea, selling more than 2 million pre-sale tickets. It also surpassed 1 million admissions in less than 5 hours of its release, the fastest paced ever for a film shown in the country. The movie's distributor, the Walt Disney Company Korea, says the pre-sale figure is double that of Avengers Infinity War, which was released last year. That has been your 3-minute news flash. It is now time to take a look at some of the digital media content available on Arirang's various social media platforms.
And today we have another episode of Koreator with Triple C from Canada showing us around K-Town in Toronto. Take a look.
Hi, Triple C! Wow, this actually looks so good. You know you should be there.
So now we're on to a kind of famous little restaurant we have in K-Town here. It's called Little Piggies. We've had multiple different K-pop groups come and eat there, such as Gov't, I think, Pink, T-Top. Maybe they tell each other like, oh, this is a good place to go.
So good, I cried.
My Velvet made everyone cry.
It was so great. Yeah, we love them, and yeah,
amazing.
So, anyways, yeah, thank you guys for joining our little trip to Red Velvet, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
The skies cleared up in the afternoon, bringing in warmer conditions.
Yes, but they won't last for long as we're in for another bout of rain. For more details, let's turn to our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Now we have pleasant weather like you said, but that's set to change with scattered showers and a few isolated thunderstorms expected for Thursday afternoon. Now Pyongyang and Tokyo will also see periods of rain, but Tokyo can still expect highs in the mid-20s. Now the rain will start from the central region, then expand into the southern regions tomorrow. Now the northern provinces, including the capital, will see between 5 and 30 millimeters. Now the morning lows will be about 1 to 2 degrees lower than today. Many areas, including Seoul, will kick off at between 12 and 15 degrees Celsius. Daily highs are expected to be 1 to 4 degrees lower than this afternoon, so peaking up to 21 degrees, and while Busan and Jeju falls into the high teens. Now, the frequent showers will stick around until Friday, but the weather will turn brighter as we head into the weekend. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
Well, that will do it for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you, as always, for watching.
News in depth is coming up shortly, so stay tuned.
Daily news you need to know.